Today we're making beer cheese, a classic game day snack, 3 different ways. This appetizer is great with soft pretzels, over corn chips, or drank through a straw. Of course, kidding, of course. No one would do that.
For version 1, we're going to do a white beer cheese. This is going to use 3 types of cheese, so I'm going to measure up and cube some Monterey Jack and Gruyere before starting with a roux. Exact ingredient amounts will be listed in the video description below. Melt the butter completely before adding your flour, then mix to incorporate very thoroughly. Cook until the raw flour taste is gone, which you will know because it will start to smell warm and nutty. If you want, you can take this further and get it darker, but since I want my white beer cheese white and not brown, I'm going to keep it pretty light before I add my beer. You can use any beer that you enjoy. For this, I'm going with something that has a more mild taste. Did you know that Pabst Brewing Company switched to making cheese during the Prohibition? In that time, they sold over 8 million pounds of Pabstet cheese food, which had a number of great advertising claims, such as the ability to be processed by the human body.
Yes, and Pabstet is digestible too.
So we're going to add about half a can here, a couple splashes at a time. I was a little surprised to see the roux react to the beer pretty much the same way that it does with milk. You'll end up with what I like to think of as beer chamel. Toss in some cream cheese and let that melt completely. Once that's fully incorporated, it's just a matter of adding the cubed cheese a bit at a time, stirring until it's melted, then adding some more and repeating the process. Now, as you can see, we ended up with a pretty thick sauce here. Feel free to adjust the consistency with some milk if you would like something thinner. Alternatively, you could just add less cheese, but of course, that would result in having less beer cheese, so I have no idea why you would do that. Taste and adjust seasoning, and you are done. For version 2, we are going super simple with 1 pound of cheddar. That's it. Cut it up into about 1-inch cubes and coat that in cornstarch, which somehow takes the place of the roux. Now bring your beer to a boil. I'm using an IPA with a little more flavor here, though I think it's worth noting that if you use a gluten-free beer, this whole version will be gluten-free, so it must be healthy, right? Once your beer is simmering, add your cheese a bit at a time. This is the same story. Add, stir, melt, repeat. This can be a bit tedious, so while you're at it, you can take some time to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You'll see partway through that this looks like some sort of cheesy tang liquid, which isn't super appetizing, but just keep adding and melting, and eventually it will turn into a nice, thick sauce. I decided not to thin this one out for some textural difference. Just keep in mind that this version needs to be kept hot, or it will pretty much solidify into a beery, cheesy mass. Now for version 3, which is a loaded beer cheese. So first, I chopped up some jalapeno and half a bell pepper, and cooked up a few strips of bacon. For assembly, I'm going to start by cheating a little bit and combining the first 2 versions, which ended up requiring some heat because the cheddar dip was getting a little solid. Once that was nice and incorporated, it was time for the peppers and the bacon. This is already looking great, but for extra visual effect and added flavor, I threw this in a broiler for a couple of minutes to get some nice leoparding, which is what is called when cheese gets those tasty brown spots. I chopped that off with some chives, and look how beautiful our loaded dip looks. Now, the first 2 sauces are great, but the mix-ins and the extra step of broiling took this to the next level. This is definitely something that would be great for your next gathering, but don't let other people's social calendars keep you from enjoying this on your own. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time.